everyone. How's everyone? It's been a long day, so let's get started. My name is Farbod, and I'm a product lead at Miro, and I'm also co-founder of a company called Open United. And today I'm going to present a framework called FreshLatte, which we made as part of our startup journey to tackle some of the challenges we faced. And later on, I introduced this at several companies that I'm advising, and it turned out to be helpful. So I decided to share this with a broader community. So today is the first time I'm giving a talk about it. So that's why I want to start with some question to understand how much of the challenges we faced are shared with this community. One of the challenges that I've often seen is that there is lack of centralized information storage at organizations. And that means there are missing PADs and PRDs, and also there is no context or little context about previous decision about products, so you are not sure why certain feature has been built in the past, and there are also insights are incomplete or scattered all over the place. So when you join a new company, you don't know actually how much demand or request or feedback has been provided for a certain part of the product. So how much of what I just mentioned you've faced before? Please raise your hand. Okay. And how many of you joined a company and you had to go through a lengthy and painful onboarding to get onboarded into the product because there is no source of truth that explains the product, and you have to go through a lot of help center or sit with domain experts to understand different part of the product? Please raise your hand. Okay. And how many of you felt lack of alignment at some point or often with different stakeholders, including leadership, where they ask for certain feature and you wondered why we should invest in this feature while we could do something else? Okay, the most popular one. So there are more of similar challenges, and the core of the challenge, the problem at the core of the challenges that I mentioned is lack of source of truth. So designers have Figma files as their source of truth. Developers have code bases. They join the company, they go through the code and documentation, they get onboarded. While for product people, there is no source of truth. You can say the product itself is a source of truth because product itself is just a visual, a snapshot of the functionalities at that moment. And it's more of a source of truth for a user, not for the product manager, because you need a source of truth that showcase all the insights, all the historical decisions, everything around the product. So it's not enough for you to get your work done. And also outdated PRDs are not good enough. Yeah. So we introduced a new concept called product tree. It's a series of interconnected product areas to form a cohesive and dynamic map of your product. This is a very simplified version of Netflix, just for the purpose of example, where we broke down the product into two product areas, viewers and content creators, basically the personas as top product areas. We zoomed in on the viewer side, we broke it down into discover, watch, account, and setting, and basically which can be seen as flows. And we zoomed in on the product area, discover as an example, and we broke it down further into browse, genres, search, shows, movies, and recommendation. What are the key benefits of creating such a structure? Oops, jumped to the end. Oops, I don't know where to point at. They told me point to the left. Somewhere. Okay, here we go. So one of the main key benefits is that this structural foundation can act as a centralized place to inform all product-related information. So each product area in your product tree can be a storage to drop the result of your product discovery, or if you're making a new decision around certain product area, just add it to the decision log of that part of the tree. If there are technical design documents, Figma file, just try to link them to a specific part of the tree which is relevant. And of course, add insight and analytics, which are important parts, and I'm going to deep dive on each. Talking about insights, the product tree helps you create a sort of insight foundation, like a skeleton that you can map insight to different part of the tree. So in reality, you don't have much control over when the feedback is coming your way. Let's say as a PM, you're working on a profile page, and while you're busy with the discovery, there are requests coming in about, let's say, registration flow or bugs. And what I've seen happen often is that either there are two scenarios. Either the PMs ignore it. They say, unless it's critical and something is broken, we're going to jump on it. But if it's not critical, I mean, it's not relevant for now. We are working on other part of the product. Let's just ignore it. Or at best case scenario, you have PMs who are telling, well, this is helpful, but not for now. Let's just store it somewhere in a document and we'll get back to it later. So there is no structural place to map the insights to right part of the product tree for the future discoveries. And also, this sounds cliche, but I often ask the PMs that I'm managing or coaching to dedicate 1 hour a week to spend time with the users. Is literally 3% of your overall week time. So it's not going to make a big change to your workflow. But what happens is you can sit with the user, see how they perceive your product. You don't have to even do a very targeted research. You can just let them talk about your product, the pains they have, and as you uncover insights, you can just map them to the right part of the tree. So a well-maintained product tree can act as a backbone to create better product strategy and also make better prioritization calls. Next. Another key benefit is product tree can act as an analytical backbone. You can store health and traction metrics for each product area. And you can also, with the help of that, identify areas for further investment or just basically for sunsetting features. There are features in your product that have low usage and they are no longer core to your strategy and you need to get rid of them. So my co-founder has a good analogy and says product management is similar to wardrobe management. You have to get rid of your old clothes before adding the new ones. So you can't just keep adding clothes. And how do you identify the features that you need to sunset? Hopefully you have a well-maintained product tree and you sit with your team regularly to review each state of the product tree. But even if you don't do it regularly, at least you should do it periodically, at least every 6 months or every year. Sit with your team and say, what's the current state of all these product areas that we have? What are the key metrics that we are measuring, in which state they are? Are the low usage ones still core to our vision and a strategy? If yes, let's further invest and make them better, or let's just sunset them. Another key benefits of the tree structure is it creates a unified understanding of the product between you and all the stakeholders. It establishes a universal product language, meaning everyone look at the product the same way. Everyone names the functionality the same way. I remember more than 3 years ago when some of my team at Miro, they were building the platform for external developers to build apps and integration on top of Miro. There was a case where we didn't know how to name one of our APIs for interacting with the objects on a board, because in some places we were naming those objects. In some help certain articles they were called items. Some of the teams, they were referring to the objects on a board as widgets. So what is the source of truth here? Is it the help center article? So in that case, product tree also helps with unified terminology, unified view towards the product. And it also helps you to create a shared perspective with all the stakeholders, including leadership. So if you have a product tree where all the insights are mapped and you have also analytics mapped there, if leadership comes to you and say, hey, why aren't we actually building this new feature? You have a better anchor to have trade-off conversation with the leadership and tell them, I'm on top of the product. Here is the tree, as you can see. Here are the insights that we gather over the year, and it doesn't make sense to invest here, or maybe it actually makes sense. And it also improves cross-functional alignment with other peers. As an example, the marketing function. There was a case where at Miro, one of the product marketing people wanted to create a landing page for the diagramming use case, and he wasn't aware that there is a functionality in one of my teams which is about embedding Miro into other products. And that is highly relevant for diagramming use case because users can create diagram and embed it in Confluence, Notion, and other tools. And a product tree would help a product marketing person to have a holistic view of the product to create better messaging strategy and so forth. And another key benefit is generative AI. So you should be using more and more ChatGPT as part of your workflow to be more productive. And one of the challenges is in order to get better output from ChatGPT, you have to provide better context. And how are you going to explain your product to ChatGPT? It's hard to explain your product screen by screen and tell what's going on, while having such a foundational structure would help you. You could feed part of your product tree into ChatGPT and say, hey, please run a competitive analysis for this product area and tell how we can improve the product market fit. There are other key benefits as well. Quicker onboarding into the team. You get new members. They don't need to dig into the product forever. They can just see the structure at the highest level and dig deeper whenever needed. And you can do better product budgeting, not part of this talk, but we are also releasing that as part of that framework. You can read about it later. You can also avoid frequency bias. Sometimes PMs are working on features that has been requested a lot in the past month. By frequency, I mean the features that has been requested frequently recently. So this, if you have a well-maintained tree, you can have a better look on what's going on in the past year, not only in the past few weeks when it comes to prioritization and so forth. So first we talk about the challenges, we talked about the solution and the key benefits, and now let's see how to get us started and create one. So tools for adopting the framework. There are a bunch of tools you can use. There's no tool that does all the things that I mentioned, and that's why we are building Open United. However, you can still use Miro to create a visual map of your product. You can use product board where you define product areas in a nested way. They have such a functionality, and they also have a functionality which enables you to map insight to a specific part of the tree. So you can go and zoom in a specific product area to see all the insights, all the bugs, and everything that you gathered. Or you can also use simple tools like Confluence. You can just create a page for every product area, and Confluence also allows you to create children pages and nested structure. The point is to just get started, not waiting for the best tool. And how to create a tree. The most important aspect of creating a tree is using lenses. So you need to use multiple lenses to break different parts of your tree. These are just some examples. The list is long. You can go to our website to check it. But let's say you are working on a marketplace. One of the lenses that you can use to break a part of your product is a persona-based, to define sellers, buyers, admin as a high-level areas. You can use feature-based lens. If you're working at a social app, you could break down part of your product into chat, voice calls, stories. Experience-based. If you're a PM at Airbnb, you could have defined certain product areas as part of your tree as search, stay, review. Or you can even use technical components like auth, storage, pricing engine, and so forth. And it's important to use a blend of lenses. You shouldn't use just one lens to break your whole product. you use different lenses at different levels. For instance, this is an online learning platform where at the highest level, we use persona lens to define admin, instructors, the students. Then we use flow-based lens to break down the admin product area into course approval, content flagging, while on the neighbor side, we use feature-based lens. Oops, jumping. And here are some guiding principles. The most important one is just getting started. Don't letting perfect be enemy of good. I've seen PMs who organize like long workshop to define the tree and aim for perfection. But just start with the initial structure and keep iterating as you learn more how to work with trees, and also as you gather more insight and as you learn more about the product if you are new to the organization. And also treat your tree like a living, breathing entity. As you gather insight, just keep updating and so forth. And also seek cross-functional help when you're creating the tree. Either ask other functions to get involved or at least have them review your tree structure. For instance, if your product has integrations, you could just involve a partnership function to ask them what type of partner could help us to realize our vision, and use the partnership lens to break that area into further areas of strategic partners, mid-sized partners, and so forth. And accept and desire asymmetry. I've seen PMs, they try to create fancy trees which are symmetrical. However, a good tree is a tree that is asymmetric. One part of your tree might be super long and complex, while the other part might be very short, because there's not much complexity there to be mapped out. And the last one is resist the urge to oversimplify. I mean, the risk of oversimplification is low. The higher risk is overextending your tree. I've seen teams creating product area even for a simple feature request that they receive. So what will happen is they end up with a very massive product tree with thousands of nodes, which is hard to maintain, which is hard to get any information from. So you need to learn how to strike a balance. And there is no silver bullet. It only comes with experience. It's art and science. The more you work with product tree, the more you learn when to break an area into nested areas and so forth. What are the risks of this approach? One is your tree might get outdated. So you need to make this part of your workflows. Every time you do discovery, every time you come across a feature request or insight, just add it to the tool. Like if you use product board, it's not going to take much time. Plus, 2 years ago, this was a lot because this was a lot of overhead. But now you have ChatGPT again. You do this, you get an insight, just go to ChatGPT, get that part of your product tree, and also tell, hey, I got this new insight, incorporate this in this part of the tree, and you get the output. So there's not a lot of work in that sense. And avoid the scope creep. This is like a classic one, but when you have a tree, it's even more tempting to aim for adding more and more features because you have this fancy visualization of your product and more ideas come to your mind. Don't aim for over-segmentation. As I said, don't create a very complex, comprehensive product tree. Try to aim for simplicity, and only when one area gets too complex or too strategic, try to break it down into further meaningful areas. And the last part is I've seen misalignment across team where one team is creating a tree in isolation which is not matching with the other one in terms of terminology and so forth. So make sure to review your tree with your neighbor teams, relevant teams that are dependent on you, or the ones that you are dependent on, at least. So thank you. There are 3 call to action. So now we are entering the weekend. So after the weekend, create your first product tree. And subscribe to openunited.com/FreshLatte. There, as I said, it's FreshLatte includes a bunch of toolkits like product-based budgeting, community-driven development, and so forth. So if you want to hear about the upcoming chapters, you can subscribe there. And let's connect on LinkedIn and Twitter. You can scan also this to find all the links. If you adopt this, if you have any question, you can reach out. But also, once you adopt this, if you have any feedback or if you face challenges, please share, because that helps evolving the framework, and also it helps me to help you if there are things that I can answer.
Thanks again, Farbod. A big applause for you. Thank you for your contribution. There are many things that will be interesting to explore. And let's start with some questions from the audience. The first is, given that product teams are consistently busy, might the product tree be perceived as an additional overhead or just another artifact to maintain?
Yeah, so what I said, so for sure it's a work. But what I just mentioned was that with the help of generative AI, you don't need to do a lot of typing. And also with the tooling that are being available on the market, like Product Board or in the future Open United, you don't need to spend a lot of time to achieve that, because you can just feed that into into ChatGPT, get the output, add it to the right documentation on a conference page or whatever. And also, given all the benefits of it, it's outweighed the amount of work that it requires from you as a PM. And it also hopefully doesn't require a lot of work from your team. So as a PM, you dedicate a bit of your time to make sure that you have this well-maintained tree, which helps you with the strategizing, prioritization, onboarding new member, and many other benefits that we talked about.
Thank you. Romeo asks, is the product tree you propose similar to the one defined in Waterfall's work breakdown structure?
So I'm not familiar with that. I don't know what it is. Is it about breaking the task, or is it about breaking the product? Who is
Romeo?
Okay, so I'm on a familiar, so I won't be able to answer what are the similarities or differences. Yeah, but I'll check it out later.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, how does the product tree differ from or complement existing tools like user story maps, roadmaps, or product backlogs?
Yeah, so I think the user stories and roadmap and product backlog is about the task that you will work on, while the product map is just a reference of the product, like what is your product. So ideally, the challenges could be mapped to different part of, like user stories and tasks could be mapped to different part of the product tree. However, there are two sides of the coin. One is around the source of truth, for which is representation of the product now and the future, and what we are seeing here is just around the task that the team is going to do in the future.
Yeah. Okay. If you use the metaphor of trees, why did you call it FreshLatte?
So today I was focused primarily on the product tree. FreshLatte is just a bunch of toolkits, which, as I said, covers things like product-based budgeting, community-driven development. We couldn't come up with a very inclusive name that would capture all those toolkits. So we just came up with something memorable. We did some testing and people tend to remember because it's a weird name.
Great. Yes, it's true. Okay, how does one deal with features that cut across multiple product areas?
Yeah, also that's a good question. I think, so let's say you have a specific product area, let's say profile management, and then you have it both for admins and viewers, like two different personas. Depending on a tool, sometimes you can create a duplicated product area or just one product area which is referenced to different tools. For instance, one of the companies that I work with tried to implement this framework in Airtable, and you have like each product area as one of the rows in a table, and you also have a column for the parent, and you could list two different parents for a specific product area. Also in Product Board, you could just duplicate the same area in other areas. So yeah, depending on a tool, there are different ways to deal with this.
Okay, great. Thumbs up. I invite the audience to get in touch with you via Discord channel. Thanks again. Thanks again, Farbod. Thanks for being
Thanks.
here. See you later.